You ready for this? This blew my mind. This was the thing that changed everything for me. Benjamin versus Sebastian. Have you guys ever heard of well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you heard it. We're going to go over it again. I heard this when I was probably 15 years old. Let's see, make it bigger so I can see it. So Benjamin is 19 years old. At 19 years old, Benjamin invests $2,000 a year for 8 years. $2,000 a year for 8 years. So that means at 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, he invests $2,000. So somehow he was able to rack up between his college and his first home and his girlfriend and his dates. He was able to get $2,000 a year and put it into an account. We're going to learn about the accounts later, so just hold off. Just understand that he made 12% return on that investment. Over here we have Sebastian. Sebastian is at 27 years old. So like many people I know, they go off, they go to college, they go get a job, they don't think about investing, life is busy, they buy their first house, they do a bunch of stuff. And right around 27, 30, they think, oh, I've got to start saving my money. So at 27 years old, Sebastian starts investing $2,000 a year, same amount, but he doesn't stop. He invests it for 32 years. That's a total of $64,000 that he invests. Which one of them has more money at the age of 65? So at the age of 65, so please note, this is a retirement. This is a retirement function, and this is what makes someone say, oh my goodness, I need to save for retirement. $2,000 a year, a total of $16,000 over 8 years equaled $2 million, over $2 million, $2.28 million, okay? In just $2,000 a year for 8 years. Sebastian only made $1.5 million. So he made 1.5. They both had a 12% return. I found out that if I was to just put $2,000 away, this is back when I was 19, when I said, oh, maybe I should go to a financial advisor and maybe I should start putting money to the side. I had $2,000. I was ready to go. I was going to be a $2 millionaire, right? That blew my mind. And that is the exact reason that I wanted to start learning about investing. Does that make sense? Does it shock anybody? Is anyone shocked? Hands up, thumbs up, hands up in the, you don't have to press the button. You can just put it up in the camera because I can see you. I was shocked. It absolutely blew me away. And I want to teach you why that happens. I want you to understand how something can happen that way. So we have linear versus compounding interest. The difference, when we talk about investing, we are typically talking about compounding interest. The amount of money that Benjamin and Sebastian put in every time they earned interest or earned a return on their money every year, that money earned interest or return the next year. And so it continued to build and continued to build over and over again. So we have two different charts here. You have a linear. If I was to say, let's say that you made 4% simple interest or plain simple interest, that's going to be a linear line. It's just going to be a straight line across. Compounding is very, very slow when it starts out. And this is one of the primary reasons that people don't start investing. Because if you have $1,000 and you make a 10% return, you make $100 a year. You're not really happy about that. So there's really no incentive to jump in and start your investing. No. The act of compounding is just the frequency at which you can make money on top of the existing money. So it's the length of the term for whatever we're doing. So if you were, ideally, you're going to find compounding in, let's say you put your money in a bank. Let's just say you put your money in a bank account with a 5% interest rate. Well, that interest rate is 5%. You have $100. At the end of this year, you'll have $105. So next, and hopefully you're doing it more frequently than a year, but next year you would make interest on $105 instead of $100. And so it builds up. I've got an example here in a minute, and the example will hopefully clear some things up. Simple or linear? Look, I have a formula on here because I want you to learn it. I want you to be able to write it down and say that you learned something. But look, go to ChatGPT, go to Google, and just type in what's the return if I use this. You don't need, I'm not going to do the math for you. And this isn't a math class. I don't know many people that still use math for this purpose, when you have access to calculators that can do it all for you. But it's good to know that there is a formula that can prove how interest works. So if you're ever like, I don't believe anything Brett just said, then there you go. You've got this. Compound interest is a method of calculating interest on the initial principal amount as well as the accumulated interest. The difference between the two is that one calculates the existing and the new principal. Principal being the amount that you now have compared to the amount you had before you made the interest. The interest is added to the principal, and future interest calculations are based upon the updated total. And there's a formula. But like I said, I've got an example that I think is going to help with this. Let's move it on. I don't really care about. There we go. Have you guys ever done the penny thing? Would you rather have $1 million today or have one penny that's doubled every day for a month, 30 days?
Double.
You want the double. This is compounding. Now, in this example, this is daily compounding. So you can't put a penny in the stock market and think that you're going to have $1 million in 30 days. But the idea here is that you're doubling that penny every single day. That's how compounding works. You're taking the money and including the new money and the old money on top of itself, which is, like it says, compounding. It's putting it together and adding the interest on the new amount over and over and over again. So like with the penny example, it starts out really, really small, but you can see on this chart, when it goes, it goes. And our ability to get financially free is the same thing. We're looking for this velocity that gets us out of the atmosphere. We're looking to get ourselves to that point of growth where you look back and go, oh my goodness, I just did this. And there's a point, and it takes a long time to get to that point. And if more people hit that point early in their life, they'd be telling their friend, hey man, you got to do this. But they don't, because they're not getting there. And a 20, 30, and 40-year-old's not talking to a 60, 70, and 80-year-old. So an 80-year-old that's well off, a 60-year-old that's well off, a 40-year-old that's well off isn't talking to the people that need to know the information the most. So by the time you're looking for it, you're already behind. We got a lot to talk about. Rule of 72 is not the end-all be-all, but the rule of 72 talks about doubling. When we talk about investing, we're going to talk a lot about doubling. There's quite a few very famous investors that talk about doubles, and they'll say, I picked that stock because it's a double. We're going to do more on stocks later, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But if you can imagine buying a stock, forget about stocks. Say you go buy a chair at the flea market for $50, and you know that you can sell it on Craigslist for $100. That's double. So you've doubled your money. When you're looking to buy something, you're looking to see how long it will take for you to double the amount of money that you paid. The rule of 72 is a rough math, a quick, fast, simple math thing that people use before they had calculators, before they had ChatGPT. Investors would use the rule of 72. So if you want to figure out, if you have a rate of interest, you go to your bank account and you say, okay, what interest am I getting in my bank account? If you take 72 and divide it by that interest, you will figure out how long it takes for your money to double. So in this case, if we divide 72 by 3, it's coming. Here we go. If we divide 72 by 3, it takes 24 years. So this is what it would look like. If you put it into a calculator, into a investing calculator online, you're going to find, let's see here. Can you guys see this okay?
Yeah.
If you look at the beginning, let's say you put $10,000 in the first year. Well, by the end of the first year, you've made $300 on your $10,000. Or it's going to, this calculator, by the way, only went to 20 years. It didn't give me 24, even though our answer is 24. But if you look way down here at the bottom, it's at $18,000. That's almost double. So in 20 years, it almost doubled your $10,000. And so if we come back and we look at the chart, this is what it looks like. You're putting all this money in, and this is how much money is made on your money. So you can figure out that a 3% return would take you 24 years to double your money. Is that exciting? Who wants to put $24,000, or sorry, $10,000 into a savings account making 3% interest? Anybody? Okay. Let's use the same calculation. 72 over 24. If you had a 24% return, the answer would be 3 years. So if you can get something that returns your money 24, so a 24% return, you are going to double your money every 3 years. This is the second thing that got me excited about investing. The first one was like, oh my goodness, I can put $2,000 in every year for 8 years. And by the end of my life, I might have $1 million. That's swell. This says I can double my money every 3 years. So think about how much money you might be able to save. Let's say you had $100,000 and it doubles every 3 years. Well, 3 years from now, you made $200,000. So roughly, rough math here, rough math, you would have $33,000 a year, right? So if you make $100,000 over 3 years, you divide that by 3. So it doubled. You had $100,000 in the first year. 3 years later, you had $200,000. In that course of $100,000 to $200,000, you ultimately can average that out to $33,000 a year each year. So if you had $1 million and you can double in 3 years, then you would have $300,000 per year. What the chart looks like, if I zoom in for you, we do this, we get down at the bottom and you'll see in the beginning, we put in $10,000. And then in year 3, we had about just under $20,000. So we made about $3,300 per year. And then at the end of 20 years, we would have $738,000. Yes? So at the end, bring that up here. If you look right there at the end, you've got $142,000 per year. So if you stopped your money from adding, if you stopped getting a return on your money when you had $738,000, then every year you would take $738,000 and continue to invest it, and you would take the $142,900 out. So at year 20, after putting in $10,000 with a $24,000 return, you are now able to get basically rounded to $143,000 a year. So when I talk about financial freedom, I'm saying, how can you get this number, the number over here where we, y'all see that one? Yeah. The number over here where this is how much money you have being invested in interest adding to it, how much interest or return, I'm sorry, because return is far more descriptive than interest. But basically, how much money can we make on the money we have in order to, as an income? Now, I'm going to show you one more chart, and then we're going to move on. This next chart shows what happens if you did the same thing, you had 24% interest or 24% return, and you put $10,000 in per year. So you just kept putting $10,000 in. At the bottom of this chart, you'll see that you have $4,500,000. So if you had $10,000 that you could save a year and move that money from your bank account, from your expenses and your car payment and your groceries, if you were able to cut back enough to save $10,000 and you did it every year for 20 years, you'd have $4.5 million. But the real question is, how quickly could you get to that point where here we are at 12 years, we're at $763,000. So how quickly could you get to the point where you're able to live off the return? Where is that terminal velocity? Where's that point where we can get enough money or more money from our interest or our return than we can possibly be spending or than we are spending? I know it's possible to spend a ton, but the next question you might ask me is, but wait, you can't make a 24% return. Did anybody think that? Has anybody thought that you can't make a 24% return? Go ahead, be honest. You can put it in the chat, you put a thumbs up. I was definitely told. In fact, I will tell you, my sister, I asked her when I first started investing, and if I were to ask her today, she still doesn't believe me. There's no way to beat the market. The market makes an average of 10% a year. There is no way to make a 24% return. What do y'all think?